If you've stumbled upon this video, if something deep inside you stirred when you saw that title, then I need you to understand something. The fact that you're here, right now, watching these words unfold across your screen, is not an accident. It's a signal from the quantum field itself, a whisper from the part of your consciousness that knows you haven't completed what you came here to do. But let me tell you what self-sabotage actually is, because everything you think you know about it is backwards. Everyone believes it's about being afraid to fail. They tell you it's about not believing in yourself enough. They say you're scared of success. But here's what no one tells you. Self-sabotage is not the terror of coming up short. It's the bone-deep fear of rising to your full magnificence, of investing every fiber of your being into something beautiful, only to watch the ground dissolve beneath your feet. You don't abandon your expansion because you question your power. You retreat because the last time you dared to believe completely, when you opened every chamber of your heart and said yes to life, the universe seemed to crack open like a hungry void and consume your trust entirely. Think about it. When was the last time you truly, completely surrendered to a dream? When did you last build something with your whole soul exposed, believing it would stand forever? You remember, don't you? You remember the moment when your certainty crumbled, when what felt like solid ground revealed itself to be nothing but illusion. So you learned. Oh, you learned a lesson that carved itself into your neural pathways, a warning that echoes through every choice you make now. The lesson was this: never place your complete faith in any structure that demands your total devotion. And so you stopped. You stopped laying the deep foundations that real transformation requires. Instead, you became an artist of distraction. You learned to arrange pretty flowers across the debris of old dreams and convince yourself this was living. You practiced tracing intricate patterns on the fractured walls of what once was, calling it creativity, calling it healing, calling it enough. But let me interrupt this comfortable narrative you've been telling yourself. It is infinitely easier to beautify ruins than it is to risk inhabiting something that might shatter you again. The ruins feel safe because they can't disappoint you anymore. They're already broken. There's a strange comfort in tending to what's already destroyed, isn't there? But the ruins are not sacred ground. They are not your destiny. They are simply the fossilized remains of your last attempt, not the gravestone of your potential. Here's what's happening to you right now, in this very moment as you listen to these words. You've been mistaking your wound for your entire identity. You've been living as if that scar across your heart is the totality of who you are. Yes, disappointment cuts deep. Yes, betrayal leaves marks. But neither disappointment nor betrayal is death. Death only comes when you decide to never construct again. Death arrives when you choose the safety of ruins over the uncertainty of creation. Now I want you to feel something. I want you to recognize a truth that's been trying to reach you through the static of your fear. Even the roof that caved in taught you something about the vastness above. Even the walls that crumbled proved that you had the audacity to attempt greatness in the first place. This is where quantum consciousness begins to reveal itself. In quantum mechanics, there's a principle called superposition. The idea that particles exist in multiple states simultaneously until they're observed. Your potential right now exists in superposition. You are simultaneously the person who gave up and the person who's about to begin again. You are both the curator of ruins and the architect of worlds. The observation that collapses this superposition into reality is your decision. It's your conscious choice to stop being defined by what fell apart and start being defined by what wants to emerge. But there's something else happening here that most people never recognize. Every time you choose safety over growth, every time you decorate the rubble instead of clearing new ground, you're not just limiting yourself. You're sending a frequency into the quantum field that says, I am small, I am finished, I am not capable of more. And the universe, being the mirror it is, reflects that frequency back to you in the form of circumstances that confirm your limitation. The field responds to your energetic signature, not your conscious desires. This is why positive thinking alone never worked for you. This is why vision boards and affirmations felt empty. You were trying to override your deepest programming with surface-level techniques, while your core frequency was still broadcasting, I'm not safe to expand. Let me share something with you that changes everything. There will come a moment, and that moment might be right now, when your hunger for wholeness becomes stronger than your fear of another collapse. When your soul's yearning for completion outweighs your mind's need for safety. When that moment arrives, you won't begin again as the innocent dreamer you once were. You'll approach creation as someone who speaks the language of both construction and destruction. You'll build with the wisdom of someone who has seen structures fall and knows that even falling teaches you something precious about the nature of rising. The person you're becoming understands something the old you didn't, that every fracture in the foundation becomes a place where light can enter. Every broken beam becomes a teacher of resilience. Every fallen stone becomes a cornerstone for something stronger. But here's what I need you to understand about the quantum nature of this transformation. In the quantum field, nothing is ever truly destroyed. Energy simply changes form. The dreams that seemed to disintegrate didn't vanish. They transformed into wisdom. The structures that fell didn't disappear. They became compost for what wants to grow. You are not starting over. You are evolving. You are not beginning from nothing. You are beginning from everything you've learned. This is the secret that separates those who remain curators of ruins from those who become architects of new realities. Understanding that your breakdown was not a dead end, but a breakthrough in disguise. Every moment of collapse was preparation for a more authentic expansion. Right now, as you listen to these words, I want you to feel into something. Place your hand on your heart and ask yourself, what wants to be built through me that I've been too afraid to attempt? What vision has been knocking at the door of your consciousness that you've been pretending not to hear? The answer might frighten you. Good. Fear means you're approaching something real, something that matters, something worth the risk. I want you to take a moment right now and comment below with this exact phrase, I choose to build again. Not because it's easy, not because you're not scared, but because your soul came here to create, not to curate ruins. Comment that phrase as an energetic declaration to the quantum field. Let it be your conscious interruption of the loop you've been stuck in. Let it be your signal that you're ready to step out of the safety of destruction and into the uncertainty of creation. Because here's what no one tells you about the quantum field. It doesn't respond to your circumstances. It responds to your choices. It doesn't care about your history. It cares about your frequency. And every time you choose growth over safety, every time you choose creation over curation, you're broadcasting a signal that says, I am expanding. I am becoming. I am not done here. The moment you shift from asking, "What if it falls again?" to asking, "What wants to be born through me?" everything changes. Your relationship with uncertainty transforms from terror to curiosity. Your relationship with failure shifts from avoidance to information. You begin to understand that you were never meant to build something that would never break. You were meant to build something that could break and regenerate, something that could fall and rise stronger, something that could transform and adapt and continue expanding no matter what. This is the difference between building from ego and building from soul. The ego builds to never fall. The soul builds to grow. The ego constructs monuments to itself. The soul creates vessels for expansion. When you shift from ego building to soul building, you stop trying to create something that will never disappoint you and start creating something that will never stop teaching you. Now, I need to tell you something that might sound counterintuitive. The very thing you're afraid will happen again. The collapse, the betrayal, the disappointment is going to happen. Not because you're cursed, not because you're unlucky, but because expansion requires destruction. Growth demands the dismantling of what no longer serves. The difference is this: when you're building from soul instead of ego, when you're creating from wisdom instead of naivety, the collapse becomes compost instead of catastrophe. The breakdown becomes breakthrough. The destruction becomes reconstruction. You stop building to avoid falling and start building to dance with the cycles of creation and dissolution that govern all of existence. If what I'm sharing with you is creating a resonance in your chest, if something inside you is saying, "Yes, this is what I needed to hear," then I invite you to subscribe not just to this channel, but to this frequency of fearless creation. Subscribe to stay connected to this conversation about conscious expansion, about building from wisdom, about choosing growth over safety again and again. Because this isn't just about you. The more of us who choose to build again, who refuse to remain curators of ruins, the more the collective field shifts toward creation instead of destruction, toward expansion instead of contraction, toward possibility instead of limitation. Your choice to build again sends ripples through the quantum field that give others permission to do the same. Your courage to risk another collapse creates space for someone else to risk their first attempt. This is how consciousness evolves. This is how reality transforms. One choice at a time. One person at a time. One moment of choosing creation over safety at a time. So let me ask you directly, what are you going to build? Not someday. Not when you feel ready. Not when the conditions are perfect. What are you going to build now, with everything you know, with all the wisdom your ruins have taught you, with all the strength your scars have given you? Because you were not designed to be a caretaker of what's already broken. You were not coded to be a gardener of graves. You were not programmed to be a curator of what once was. You were made to be an architect of what could be. You were designed to be a creator of new possibilities. You were born to be a builder of worlds. But before we continue, I need to share something with you that will completely reframe how you understand the nature of completion and incompletion. There's a quantum principle called entanglement, where two particles become connected in such a way that measuring one instantly affects the other, regardless of the distance between them. Your consciousness right now is entangled with every version of yourself that has ever existed and ever will exist. The part of you that's watching this video is connected to the part of you that first dreamed of something magnificent. It's entangled with the part of you that built with trembling hands. It's quantum linked to the part of you that watched everything fall. And most importantly, it's inseparably connected to the part of you that will build again. This means that when you make the choice to create from this moment forward, you're not just affecting your future self. You're sending ripples backward through time, healing every version of yourself that ever felt broken by collapse. You're retroactively validating every attempt that seemed to fail. Think about this for a moment. Every time you were told you were too sensitive, too ambitious, too much, that was the universe trying to contain something that couldn't be contained. Every time someone said your dreams were unrealistic, what they were really saying is that your vision was too big for their reality to hold. But here's what changes everything. You weren't building in their reality. You were building in quantum reality, where infinite possibilities exist simultaneously, where consciousness creates matter, where intention shapes experience. The reason your structures seem to collapse in three-dimensional reality is because you were constructing five-dimensional architecture. You were trying to build quantum possibilities in Newtonian space. Of course, it looked like failure to eyes that can only see linearly. Let me explain what I mean by quantum building versus traditional building. Traditional building follows the laws of classical physics. You need materials, you need time, you need resources, you need permission. Quantum building follows the laws of consciousness. You need clarity, you need coherence, you need conviction, you need courage. In traditional building, you start with a foundation and work your way up. In quantum building, you start with a vision and work your way into embodiment. Traditional building is about manipulation of matter. Quantum building is about alignment of frequency. This is why every method you were taught about achieving your dreams felt hollow. They were teaching you classical construction in a quantum universe. They were giving you hammers and nails when what you needed was consciousness and coherence. The structures you built before weren't meant to last in three-dimensional space. They were meant to teach you something about multi-dimensional creation. Every collapse was showing you the difference between building from limitation and building from possibility. Now, I want you to feel into something that might challenge everything you believe about failure and success. What if I told you that every time something fell apart in your life, it wasn't because you did something wrong? What if it crumbled because you were finally ready to learn something new about the nature of creation itself? In quantum mechanics, there's something called wave function collapse. A particle exists in all possible states until it's observed, and then it collapses into one specific reality. Your dreams, your visions, your deepest longings, they exist in superposition right now, in all possible states of manifestation. The reason they haven't collapsed into your three-dimensional experience isn't because you're not worthy or because you don't believe enough. It's because you haven't learned to be the kind of observer that can hold the frequency of their full manifestation. Every collapse you've experienced has been teaching you to become that observer. Every breakdown has been upgrading your consciousness to handle frequencies you couldn't hold before. Every disappointment has been expanding your capacity to be worthy of what wants to emerge through you. This is the part that most people never understand about conscious creation. They think it's about getting what you want. But quantum creation isn't about getting. It's about becoming. It's about evolving into the version of yourself that can hold the reality your soul is calling forth. You can't manifest from the same level of consciousness that created the need for manifestation. You have to become someone new, not someone different, someone new. Someone who has integrated every lesson that collapse taught you. Someone who has alchemized every disappointment into wisdom. The person you're becoming doesn't avoid collapse. They dance with it. They don't prevent breakdown, they partner with it. They understand that destruction and creation are not opposites. They're dance partners in the cosmic ballet of becoming. Right now, as you're listening to these words, I want you to scan your body. Notice where you feel resistance. Notice where something in you wants to argue with what I'm saying. That resistance isn't protecting you. It's preventing you from accessing the next level of your own expansion. That tension you feel is the old operating system fighting for its survival. It's the part of you that learned to stay small, trying to convince you that safety is more important than truth. But your soul didn't come here for safety. Your soul came here for expansion. Here's what most people don't realize about the relationship between safety and growth. They think they need to feel safe in order to grow. But the quantum truth is this: growth creates safety, not the other way around. When you expand into who you're meant to become, you become safe not because nothing can hurt you, but because nothing can stop you. The version of you that's emerging from this conversation doesn't need protection from collapse, because they understand that collapse is not the opposite of success. It's part of the success. They don't fear breakdown, because they know that breakdown is how consciousness breaks through into new possibilities. Now I'm going to share with you a practice that will completely rewire your relationship with incompletion. I want you to close your eyes for a moment and imagine the last thing you built that fell apart. See it clearly in your mind's eye, not as it collapsed, but as it was in its moment of greatest potential. Feel into that moment when you believed completely, when you were building from pure possibility, when you had no doubt that this was your path. Feel the energy of that moment. Feel the frequency of that faith. Now I want you to understand something profound. That energy, that frequency, that faith, it didn't disappear when the structure fell. It's still there. It's still available. It's still yours to access. The structure was temporary. The frequency is eternal. The building was conditional. The builder is unconditional. But here's where this gets even more interesting from a quantum perspective. There's something called the observer effect in quantum mechanics, which states that the act of observation changes the behavior of what's being observed. Right now, as you're observing that moment of pure creative potential, you're not just remembering it, you're changing it. You're collapsing all the quantum possibilities of that moment into a new understanding. Instead of it existing in your memory as failure, it's now existing as preparation. Instead of it being filed away as disappointment, it's being reorganized as information. This is what I mean when I say you have the power to rewrite your relationship with your past. You're not changing what happened. You're changing what it means. You're not altering the facts. You're transforming the frequency of those facts in your field. Every time you revisit a memory with expanded consciousness, you're literally changing the neural pathways associated with that memory. You're updating the energetic signature of that experience in your system. You're performing surgery on time itself. This is why healing isn't just about moving forward. It's about moving backward with new awareness and recoding the experiences that shaped your current limitations. It's about becoming a quantum archaeologist of your own history, excavating the wisdom that was always there, but couldn't be accessed from your previous level of consciousness. Now, what I've shared with you today about consciousness mastery is really just touching the surface of a much deeper transmission. If you're feeling this resonance, If something in you is saying, yes, I need to understand the complete system behind this, then you'll want to explore my book, Beyond the Frequencies, A Quantum Guide to Consciousness Mastery. It contains layers upon layers of understanding about moving from unconscious transmission to becoming the broadcast itself, complete with the 9 master frequencies that govern reality creation and step-by-step practices for embodying each one. It's linked in the pinned comment below. Think about this. Every moment of your life that felt like an ending was actually a portal. Every experience that seemed to close a door was actually opening a dimensional gateway. Every collapse that appeared to be destruction was actually reconstruction happening at speeds too fast for your linear mind to track. The quantum field doesn't operate in terms of success and failure. It operates in terms of evolution and expansion. Every experience you've had, regardless of how it appeared to your 3-dimensional perception, was serving your 5-dimensional development. This is why some of your greatest failures led to your most profound growth spurts. This is why your darkest moments often preceded your brightest insights. The quantum field was using apparent setbacks as setups for breakthroughs you couldn't have accessed any other way. I'm curious, what pattern in your life are you now recognizing as preparation rather than punishment? Drop a comment and share what you're seeing with new eyes. Now I want you to consider something that might completely revolutionize how you approach your next creation. What if the thing you're afraid to build isn't meant to last forever? What if it's meant to serve its purpose and then transform into something else? What if you've been trying to create monuments when you're meant to create movements? In nature, nothing is permanent. Everything is in constant flow, constant change, constant evolution. The most magnificent oak tree eventually becomes soil for new growth. The most powerful river eventually reaches the ocean and becomes part of something larger. The most brilliant star eventually explodes and seeds new galaxies with its essence. Your creations are meant to follow the same pattern. They're meant to serve their purpose, share their gifts, complete their cycle, and then become compost for whatever wants to emerge next through your expanded consciousness. When you understand this, you stop trying to build things that will never change and start building things that can evolve, adapt, transform, and transcend themselves. You stop creating from attachment and start creating from flow. What's the one creation that's been calling to you that you've been avoiding because you're afraid it might not be permanent? Share it below. Your vulnerability creates permission for others to acknowledge theirs. This is the difference between building monuments to your ego and creating vessels for your soul's expression. Monuments are static. They're designed to preserve the past. Vessels are dynamic. They're designed to serve the present while remaining available for whatever the future requires. The consciousness that's emerging through you now is not interested in monuments. It's interested in movement. It's not trying to create something that will prove your worth. It's trying to express something that will serve the whole. What collapsed was not your power to create. What collapsed was one particular form your power took. Your creative force itself is indestructible because it's not made of matter. It's made of consciousness. This is why you're not finished here. This is why something deep inside you stirred when you found this video. Your consciousness is recognizing itself in these words. Your creative force is remembering its own nature. But there's something else I need to tell you about the quantum nature of completion and incompletion. In linear time, things have beginnings, middles, and ends. In quantum time, everything is happening simultaneously. Every moment of creation, every moment of collapse, every moment of recreation, they're all happening now. This means that the version of you that's about to build again has access to all the wisdom of every version that ever built before. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from synthesis. You're not beginning again. You're beginning at a higher octave. The difference between who you were then and who you are now is not just experience, it's frequency. You've been upgraded. Your consciousness has been expanded. Your capacity has been increased. The dreams that want to emerge through you now are not the same dreams that fell before. They're quantum-evolved versions of those dreams. Dreams that have been refined in the crucible of your becoming. Dreams that have been encoded with everything you've learned about the nature of creation and destruction. These new dreams know how to build with flexibility instead of rigidity. They know how to create with flow instead of force. They know how to construct with wisdom instead of willfulness. At this point in our journey together, I want you to pause and comment below with this phrase: I am ready to build with quantum wisdom. Don't just type it, feel it. Let it be a declaration that reverberates through every cell of your being. Let it be your conscious choice to step out of linear creation and into quantum creation. This phrase is not just words, it's a frequency transmission. It's your signal to the field that you're no longer content to build from the old paradigm. You're ready to create from the new understanding. Because what I'm about to share with you will transform not just how you build, but what you build and why you build. We're moving from construction to creation, from manifestation to embodiment, from getting what you want to becoming who you are. In the quantum field, there's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. There's no such thing as mistakes. There's only recalibration. There's no such thing as collapse. There's only composting. Every structure that fell was composting into the soil from which your next creation will grow. Every dream that seemed to die was decomposing into the nutrients your emerging vision needs to thrive. This is how nature creates, through cycles of death and rebirth, breakdown and breakthrough, dissolution and reconstitution. Your consciousness follows the same pattern because consciousness is nature expressing itself as awareness. The reason you felt so devastated when things fell apart is because you were trying to create like a machine instead of like nature. Machines break down. Nature breaks through. Machines malfunction. Nature transforms. When you align your creative process with the natural cycles of consciousness, collapse becomes as welcome as construction. Endings become as sacred as beginnings. Dissolution becomes as necessary as formation. But here's where most people get confused about natural creation. They think it means being passive, going with the flow, accepting whatever happens. But that's not how nature creates. Nature is incredibly intentional. Every seed knows exactly what it wants to become. Every tree grows precisely toward the light. Every river follows the path of least resistance to reach its destination. Natural creation is not passive. It's precisely directed. It's not about giving up control. It's about understanding what you can control and what you can't. You can't control the weather, but you can choose when to plant. You can't control the soil, but you can choose what seeds to sow. In quantum creation, you can't control the timing of manifestation, but you can control the frequency you broadcast. You can't control external circumstances, but you can control your internal coherence. This is why your previous attempts at manifestation felt forced. You were trying to control the uncontrollable while neglecting the controllable. You were trying to manipulate outcomes while ignoring the frequency you were emitting that was creating those outcomes. The quantum creator understands that reality is not something that happens to you. It's something that happens through you. You're not a victim of circumstances. You're a transmitter of frequency. You're not subject to conditions. You're the source of conditions. When you truly embody this understanding, everything changes. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me about my frequency?" You stop trying to change what's outside and start transforming what's inside. This transformation from victim consciousness to creator consciousness is not just personal, it's evolutionary. Every time someone makes this shift, they contribute to the collective awakening of humanity. They become a beacon of possibility for everyone around them. Your choice to build again is not just about your own fulfillment. It's about your contribution to the collective creation of a reality where everyone remembers their creators, not victims. But building from quantum consciousness requires a fundamentally different approach than building from linear consciousness. Linear building says, decide what you want, make a plan, execute the plan, get the result. Quantum building says, align with your deepest truth, broadcast that frequency, become worthy of what wants to emerge, allow it to materialize through you. Linear building is about forcing your will upon reality. Quantum building is about discovering what reality wants to create through your unique gifts and becoming a vessel for that creation. This doesn't mean you become passive or purposeless. It means you become incredibly active in ways that matter and incredibly passive in ways that don't. You become ferociously committed to your frequency and completely detached from your timeline. The frequency is yours to control. That's your job, your responsibility, your power. The timeline is the universe's to orchestrate. That's its job, its responsibility, its power. If this understanding is shifting something fundamental in your awareness, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps this frequency reach others who are ready for this quantum awakening. Most people exhaust themselves trying to do the universe's job while neglecting their own. They focus all their energy on when and how things will manifest, while broadcasting frequencies of doubt, fear, and unworthiness. The quantum creator reverses this entirely. They pour all their energy into maintaining frequencies of possibility, worthiness, and trust, while allowing the universe to handle the timing and logistics of manifestation. This is why traditional goal setting never worked for you long term. Goals are linear constructs in a quantum universe. They assume that you know what you want better than the universe knows what you need. They assume that your limited perspective can see possibilities that infinite intelligence cannot. Quantum creation is not about getting what you want. It's about becoming someone who wants what they get, because what they get is always exactly what serves their highest evolution. This doesn't mean settling for less. This means understanding.